I'm introducing a phenomenal individual, Khushee Doshi. She'll be shedding some light on the present role of women in a global context, in addition to uncovering the shadow pandemic that is increasingly servicing the world. Please welcome the amazing Khushee Doshi.
Thank you, and good evening to everybody. Where would the world be today without women? Isn't it galvanizing to even imagine where mankind would be without women today? Where our progression would be today without women? It would be nowhere near where we are today, or nowhere near where we have to be in the forthcoming. Today's world is a pandemic. It comprises of several aspects that undermine individuals, that threat individuals. And despite the movements towards gender equality, gender equity, and despite the roles women have occupied for years, they still remain largely vulnerable in the global context. And times of crises like these, like the current pandemic we're living through, accentuate upon the vulnerabilities of women. I was doing my research and I came across alarming statistics as to how, according to the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, we are 135 years away from closing the gender gap. Let that sink in for a moment. 135 years. We are far, far away from where we need to be today. Despite establishing a sense of equality and equity, we're nowhere near it. Before the pandemic, 1 in 3 women around the world were sexually and physically abused by their intimate partner. 1 in 3. And with the restrictions that coronavirus has brought, with the lockdowns and the times of crises, women are confined to the boundaries of their home. They are sharing the same space with a toxic partner. And that has led to an 18% increase in the sexual and physical abuses directed towards women. An 18% increase from the 1/3% of women that were physically being abused. Now, there's a caveat to this. This isn't being addressed. This isn't being addressed as fast as other humanitarian causes. And the one cause behind the slow addressing of women's problems and domestic violence around the world is the lack of representation of women in positions of decision making and policy making. Women are not represented well in leadership positions, in positions where they get to carry out and where they get to show their voice and where they get to make certain laws and lobby certain causes that will enhance the equity of women around the world. I want to take a moment to think what we can do for this. How can we address this? Through some of the courses I've taken, I've been alarmed at the fact of how women are so capable of alleviating poverty, of addressing social inconsistencies, of lifting communities from times of crises through communal rebuildment, yet their contributions are overlooked largely. And that is all because of the lack of representation on a global level. Women, when put in positions of leadership and policy making, they target aspects like health and education. They allocate funds to health, education, and safety for fellow women. And that creates an environment of inclusivity, of addressing of causes that need to be put at #1 priority. And as I conclude my speech, I want to draw a call to action. I want to give you a piece of aspect to everyone sitting here, and that is to encourage women to be drivers of change, to occupy grassroots level organizations and corporations that target certain causes. And that will allow expansion on a global level. Regional to global expansion is profound. And when that happens in the context of women, we're certainly addressing the 135 years it will take to close the gender gap, because that tells us that we are 135 years from progressing as mankind collectively. Thank you.
Our next student evaluator is Codi Lamb, and she will be evaluating Khushee Doshi.
Khushee, so I think you did an amazing job. I think you had a great delivery. I love how you talked about the women in general, how we're just like progressing in general. I loved how you gave stats. You gave a lot of information. I always remember when you deliver a speech, it's like you always keep my attention, but your voice is very soft. It's not too soft where I can't understand you, but it's like at the perfect tone. I love how you were just giving a lot of information in general, and a lot of the stuff that you said, I wasn't really aware of it initially, but by you elaborating about the women in general, it made me more aware of what you were trying to talk about in general and just communicate to the audience. One thing I would say, I would probably elaborate more just on the stats and the information that you were giving with that specifically. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, I guess, like some numbers I think you were saying. But overall, I think you had a great delivery. You kept my attention the entire time, and I love the topic that you talked about. Thank you.